Okay, so since like I said before, I picked Mischief Makers for my Game Awards video, so I'm gonna choose their very first game ever made by Treasure. It's Gunstar Heroes. It was made in 1993 by former Konami members, um, and it's pretty simple game, simple run and gun, similar to say Contra and other games such as that. You play as these heroes with guns taking down an evil empire, and I don't know. It's a pretty simple game, but it's definitely very addictive, very frantic, very challenging. Um, Originally, it was going to be called Lunatic Gunstar, thinking that lunatic was a good description for the game's kind of insane off the wall action, but Sega of America felt that that would have kind of a negative connotation, lunatic being crazy. So that was rejected. And then they're also going to call it Blade Gunner in homage to Blade Runner, the movie. But they thought that that would, be copyright infringing. So that was dropped for Gunstar Heroes. And yeah, like Teddy mentioned that it was in development alongside with McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure. And for any people who are familiar with the game Cuphead, Studio MDR, the Moldenhauer brothers, mentioned how they were inspired by that game. They loved it as a kid. And King Dice's board game is literally just a section from Gunstar Heroes. It's a General Black's dice palace where you have to like roll the giant dice and then you'd move on the game board and occasionally you fight a few bosses. And one of the bosses in Cuphead is a giant 8 ball with a face on it, very similar to a boss in Gunstar Heroes called Melon Bread, which is like this giant face that floats around. And also in the Cuphead DLC, there's the Ice Wizard has like these ice block attacks that look very similar to this is kind of going off track, but similar to the Clancer faces from Mischief Makers. So that's another treasure reference. And yeah, that was Gunstar Heroes. There isn't unfortunately that much about the development outside of it took about 9 months. It was once again they're working on other stuff at the time like McDonald Land's treasure game or yeah, but unfortunately there isn't like much in the way of like any hidden development information. But I guess that's gonna lead into my 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 second part of my little section where I talk about Dynamite Heady, which was personally one of my first treasure games, all the way back in 1994, um, for Sega Genesis, Game Gear, and Master System. Which I didn't know it came out on the Game Gear, so that's trivia for me that I didn't wasn't aware of. But outside of what was it? There was this magazine that came out around the same time that as a promotion for the game. It was called Die Hard Game Fan, and in issue 21, there's actually a Dynamite Heady comic. It's like a little mini comic, basically just kind of a prequel story to what happened before the game, and it's got some nice art. I don't know. I thought that'd be an interesting thing to kind of include. And so yeah, that was mine was a bit shorter. It was just kind of more trivia than anything. But yeah, Gunstar Heroes uh, combined with Dynamite Heady.
Yeah, I'm always shocked by like how little information is out there on that game because it seems like one of their biggest legacy games. And when I hear about Gunstar Heroes or people talk about like their memories with Gunstar Heroes, they talk about like playing couch co-op, and I'm like, if this game was like so big, why is there such a lack of information on it today?
Yeah, I think. Well, here's my opinion, but I think a lot of when it comes to game development, they don't really keep a lot of their old stuff. They just kind of use it like as a tool and then just throw it away. So I guess a lot of the I don't know, maybe some like concept art and stuff like that, and it's just kind of lost to time because they don't really care about it all that much outside of its utility.
I do have a Shmuplations interview with Treasure from 1993 and 1994,
Oh,
and they asked they're I'm gonna butcher these. Teddy's gonna yell at me, but their names are Hiroshi Iuchi, a background designer.
Hiroshi Yuuchi. He asked me to yell at him, so I'm trying my best.
Tetsuhiko Kikuchi, the designer.
You're what?
Bless me. Hideyuki Suginami, a programmer.
It's Hideyuki Sugiyami.
Suginami. Mitsuru Yaida, programmer.
Mitsuru Aita.
Satoshi Murata, a sound designer.
Satoshi Murata.
Yoshi.
Yeah, this is Yoshi. They asked, looking back
Yoshi's
at
grandfather.
Your development, could you each tell us about some of your favorite scenes or memories from Gunstar Heroes? Iuchi says, one memorable part of the Gunstar Heroes development for me was the beginning of stage 1. Oh, okay. The very first moment. I redrew the very first part of the stage, the area with the natives' huts and the trees, about 4 times. The color palette and hue was more kiddie and gamey at first. We were reusing a palette, which was an inefficient use of memory, but it looked kind of cheap. Oh no, which was an efficient use of memory, but it looked kind of cheap.
Oh, big difference.
Yeah. Kikuchi said, for me, it would be the pink lobster boss fight from stage 7. When we were working on Gunstar Heroes, the Mega Drive game Mazen Saga had just been released, and I thought it was amazing and inspired me to try designing the enemy patterns, not with simple mathematical algorithms, but with data I inputted manually by hand. Pink Lobster and other enemies I made were the end result of my experiments with that method. I also love the outer space background in that fight. It's the most beautiful scene in the game. Suginami said, yeah, and it also ate up a boatload of memory. Anyway, for me, the most memorable part of the development was designing the rotating title logo. That was the very first program I ever wrote for the Mega Drive. Oh, that's kind of neat. Murata said, I was in charge of the sound effects. With FM synthesis, it's not as easy as sampling to get the right sound effects, like for a metal chink sound. That's why that sound in stage 2, when Urchin forces banging fiercely against the wall, was a really memorable one for me. Norio Hanzawa did the music, by the way, but he's not here today because he's hard at work on the next Treasure game. It's going to surprise you. It doesn't say what that will be. Some little insights into them, and I think they talk a little bit about Dynamite Headdy, but not a ton. The biggest reason for making Dynamite Headdy was that our team wanted to create something original. I've been a part of many game developments, but almost all of them were either based on pre-existing characters or plans that were handed to me from above, which I then adapted and revised. I thought Dynamite Headdy would be a more fun and fulfilling development. Having worked in game dev for 5 years now, I thought it was high time to make something of my own creation. I knew that if I wanted to make my own game, I needed to make something that looked convincing from a commercial sales perspective, and I put a lot of effort into the initial design and concept and conception of Dynamite Headdy along those lines. I had been thinking I wanted the character to use some part of his body when he attacked, and throwing his head was something new and would make an impact on players. I made him a puppet because puppets are easy to deform and manipulate, whereas a living creature that detached its head would be weird, I thought. And he's right.
Yeah, imagine if they remade Never Dead, but just combined it with Dynamite Headdy. Some dude ripping his head off, tossing.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that game. That was the dark age of Konami.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeesh.
I was gonna say, Hetty kind of looks like a McDonald's French fry.
A little bit.
I'd
He
eat
also
'em.
has like Rayman vibes.
Yeah,
I would
that's
eat
true.
him too. Rayman's hair looks like McDonald's French fries, so I would eat that.
Oh
too.
yeah.
One last thing that's worth mentioning, they ask him, you've mentioned before that you love Western animation. Was that an influence on Dynamite Heady? Kimura said, yeah, actually, Western animation was one of the things that influenced me to get into the game industry in the first place. I really admire the sensibility of Looney Tunes, where you never know what's going to happen next. Watching them inspires me to hone my own skills. The difference between games and animation, though, is that in animation, the artist directs how the scene moves and unfolds, whereas in games, that control is given over to the players. But I think that's actually a strength for gaming and could lead to even more interesting scenes, which is something I want to explore more.
It comes full
Treasure does
circle
have
with,
that similar like art style for their character portraits across games, like from Gunstar Heroes to there was like a fighting game you were gonna do. I don't remember what it's called, but then like even the character portraits in Radiant Silvergun and I think Marina and Mischief Makers, they kind of look like
Yeah.
dumpy like Western
Yeah.
cartoon art.
Combined.
Well, I was
with
gonna
say- Very, like-
Yeah.
that idea kind of comes full circle then with the inspiration for Cuphead, with the
Mhm.
game and inspiring the gameplay for Cuphead because it's very much that style.
Yeah, good point.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna go grab something. I'll be right back.
I found a cool diagram. I'm going to post it in the Discord so you guys can see it.
Right now I just see Flock.
But it's Hetty's personal
Hetty.
data.
Yeah.
Height, just under
Okay.
50 centimeters. Weight, 1 kilogram. He's a puppet, so he's very light. Family, there are several puppets who were made at the same time as him, but none of them could throw their heads, so they weren't they weren't sent to the scrap heap and are still alive somewhere. He loves jelly beans, cool stuff, the yet unknown. Hates natto, evil things, evil people, indecisiveness. I like these details about his body. It's pointing to his, I guess, ears or her ear or thing that sticks out of his head. Doesn't appear to be a feather. It changes shape with his mood. Pointing to his head is a little more durable than the rest of his body since he uses it to bash enemies. He attacks with his head, but where's his neck? His body is glossy and smooth and looks pleasant to the touch. I guess that would be for like a puppet would have that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I could find.
Do you guys want to meet my son?
Sure.
Since we're talking about Cuphead, my girlfriend got this for me for Valentine's Day.
Oh.
Oh,
I love him. He's my son. He's a
dude,
good
it would
fool.
be great to have like an actual like mug Cuphead that you could drink out of with the straw.
Yeah.
I'm sure that exists.
I also have I'm working on my office right now. That's why that Miss Pac-Man machine isn't like level with the other ones because I don't have a base for it yet. But I don't know if you can see it, but I have a disc plate over there. It says Bravo. It has Cuphead art that Spencer got me forever ago. That's going to be on that wall once I have to get some more magnets for it because the magnets I had went bad when I moved.
What do they want?
Cuphead.
What do they need?
What does everybody want?
All right, you do it, Spencer.
What does everybody want?
Ed.
There you go. Al Snow would be so proud.
Hey y'all, don't forget to subscribe to them button mappers.